She betrayed my trust, and I am a furious dad. And thankfully, I've got my emotional support dog here, so I think I'll be all right. But we've got to talk about what just happened. There's a lot going on right now, and I believe that my children have been duped. I believe I've been duped. I think I've been lied to. I believe I've been betrayed. And despite the enormous amount of money, time, love, effort, and support that I've shown this woman, she completely betrayed my trust. And I don't suspect I'm alone in feeling this way.
Screw you, Taylor Swift. That's how I would like to begin.
And to be totally transparent, I've been itching to make a reaction video as it relates to the Trump-Harris debate, because I thought it was a disaster. And if you've been watching any of the videos that I put out recently, you know what I thought was going to happen. And trust me, this is all gonna tie in, but I expected Donald Trump to be Donald Trump, and I expected him to take the gloves off. I expected him to be aggressive, firm, a little bit more combative, and I thought he was gonna rip Kamala's head off. And that's not what happened. Instead, he seemed a little bit tired, he seemed completely unprepared, and Kamala proceeded to perform in a way that blew my mind. It is absolutely terrifying that this woman could go out there and lie through her teeth without flinching, looking you directly in the eye and telling you exactly whatever she thinks you want to hear. And yes, I believe it was an inside job. Yes, I believe it was a coordinated effort. Yes, I believe lots of different things. But what I think doesn't matter, because in politics, whoever tells the biggest lie typically wins. And this woman is an all-star professional liar at the highest level, and the fact-checking and the coordinated effort between the two co-hosts, David Muir, makes me sick. I can't believe that Trump didn't call him out, didn't hold anybody accountable, didn't challenge anybody, didn't overtalk anybody, didn't do what we expect him to do. And I know he's trying to be more moderate. I know he's trying to appeal to a bigger audience. But take the effing gloves off, Donald, because the reality is she's just beating you to death from a perception perspective. And most Americans aren't going to pay much attention to anything, just the sound bites and whether she seems like she might be presidential. And I'm not confused. I don't think anybody who was on Team Trump was swayed at all. I also don't think that anybody who was on Team Kamala changed their opinion. But what makes me effing sick right now is the endorsement that she received. And to be clear, it's not that she received an endorsement that bothers me. It's the reason why that endorsement was made, because that endorsement is sickening and a total betrayal of my trust as a parent, and a total betrayal of my trust to my children. So maybe Trump didn't take off the gloves during that particular speech, and I hope he does moving forward, but I'm taking off the gloves right now because I was betrayed and lied to. And now, in order for this story to make any sense whatsoever, I've got to provide a little bit of perspective. If you've been watching for a while, you know that I've talked a lot in the past about some of the really emotional things that have gone on in my life. Being separated, working towards divorce, and kind of being stuck in a massive depression for the last year. But thankfully, praise Jesus, we're coming to the finish line of all of those things, and closure is almost here. And thankfully, both of us have decided to do the most loving, kind thing that we can for each other, provide each other with closure, and commit to being the best co-parents the world has ever seen, which is a massive relief. But I'd be lying if I told you that part of our incompatibility had a lot to do with a massive separation in terms of values and ideologies. And if you haven't figured it out by now, I do not believe in the woke mind virus. And I sure as shit will not allow my children to be infected by it. So, if I believe there is a threat to their value system, to common sense, to their ethics and morals, well, you can best believe I'm going to do whatever it takes to shut that down and advocate for them the right way. And I could give a frog's fat ass what anybody else thinks about that. because they're my children. And I've got a parental responsibility as their father to ensure they know what the truth is. Because in the real world, there's truth, there's fiction, and then there's just total bullshit and propaganda. So as a parent, I've done my best to ensure they are protected to the best of my ability. So no, they're not going to be on social media or TikTok or any social platform without my permission and consent when I decide the time is right. And thankfully, at least so far, I suspect that my equal and opposite co-parent is in alignment with these rules. And let me just start off by saying it's not like I'm some pompous a-hole who thinks I need to be right all the time. I've made lots of mistakes in my journey. It's not like I'm a perfect person. I make mistakes all the time, but when it comes to my children, I always put their best interest first, well above mine, and I'm fully prepared to do whatever it takes to ensure that happens, even at great personal sacrifice. Because that's what parents do, at least good ones. But let me stay focused, let's get right into it now. Over the last few years, as the Taylor Swift phenomenon exploded, as you might imagine, my young girls fell into being Swifties, and their mother fell into being Swifties, and I don't really care either way. Taylor Swift is not exactly my cup of tea, and there's lots of music that's not my particular cup of tea, but when you are a father and you've got two daughters and they're over the moon excited about whatever they might be excited about, chances are you're probably going to line up and fall into line and support whatever they're excited about. And again, it's not like I did a whole bunch of due diligence on Taylor Swift. I just knew that they were excited. And from what I could see on paper at first glance, she seemed like an empowered, attractive, young, successful, unbelievable singer who puts on a hell of a show. And I guess I was bamboozled because I thought she was all about family values. I thought she had a wholesome image. And so I went along with the program because if they're excited about something, no reason why I don't want to be excited about it too. And we spent a fortune over the years. We've seen Taylor Swift 4 times in concert. And actually, let me correct myself. After the first concert that we went to in Tampa, which was an incredible experience, it was magical in terms of seeing my kids react and seeing them be completely overwhelmed, somewhat like what Beatlemania must have looked like, although I wasn't around for it. They burst into tears when they saw Taylor Swift come onto stage. They were completely enamored with the pop sensation that she is. And honestly, she put on a hell of a show. But I couldn't help but notice, because I was one of the few men in the audience, and I'm sure the other men that were there were probably parents too. I was wearing a Swiftie dad shirt, for God's sakes, but I was all in because it's fun, and I wanted to be there to experience this with my kids. But while I was there, couldn't help but notice there's a lot of freak show middle-aged women that are there. And it was almost worse than watching the People of Walmart videos that exist out there. There were a lot of people that were complete freak shows. But there was also a lot of families, but no judgment. I'm not here to character assassinate anybody. It was just my first impression. But I did notice that the entire crowd was into it, and there was a tremendous amount of energy and enthusiasm. And my kids were all fired up. Their moms had made these Swiftie bracelets that they exchanged with other people. It was super sweet, and it seemed super wholesome. So I had no reason to say anything about anything, because I took her at face value and my kids were into it. So I co-signed on her and co-signed on allowing her to have some type of magical influence over my children. And I know I'm not alone, but quick back of the cocktail napkin math on this, we spent tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, traveling the world to see this woman sing 4 times. And if she stuck to singing and stayed in her lane, I would never make a video about Taylor Swift because I don't care. But that's not what happened. Instead, after the debate, and it was shortly after the debate, she proceeded to endorse Kamala Harris. and Tim Walz. Which, if I was her business manager, I would tell her, don't do something so stupid because you're going to alienate half of your fan base or risk alienating half of your fan base. But I'm not her business manager. So if she left it there, I still would have thought it was a stupid decision, but I wouldn't be making a video about it. What gets me furious, and I do mean furious, is she betrayed our trust. Now, I'm aware that most Swifties are not going to do any further research. They're just going to take the snippet, the snapshot, the picture, or whatever it might be, and just think, wow, this is about women's empowerment, and this is a good thing. Go Taylor Swift. She's supporting Kamala, which is her constitutional right. Go for it. Vote for whoever you want to. But don't drag my kids into your politics. Don't drag my kids into your sick, demented thinking, which I never would have known about except that she told us. And the reason she decided that she wanted to throw her weight, and I know she's 30 now, I can't wait till she's 60 and fat as a house, but when she is, and she's washed up, and she's alone, because last I checked, almost every song, at least the ones that I've heard, seem to have to do with all the horrible relationship choices that she's made. So please, Swifties, if you're looking for life advice, please don't go to Taylor Swift. If you want to learn about singing, then I guess listen to her. But she goes on to say that the reason why she's endorsing Kamala is because she is a huge fan of Tim Walz's stance around LGBTQ issues. And to be clear, I don't care what anybody's opinion is about LGBTQ. I don't care what anybody's choices are around in their personal private lives. Do whatever you want. It doesn't affect me at all. But if you want to push it on my children, now I must protect them from you.
Screw you, Taylor Swift. That's how I would like to begin. This woman has got she's a billionaire. I saw her amazing mansion in Rhode Island. I went to some hotel there, and there it is up on a cliff. You've never seen a more beautiful home. It's one of, 20? She's got so many gifts thanks to all of you. Thanks to your daughters, who you probably had to drag to her concerts, and you want to make your daughter happy, and so you didn't, and it's true whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. And how does she thank this nation? She turns around. Not only does she pick a side in a hotly contested presidential election, alienating at least half of her fan base, but she says the reason she's voting for Kamala Harris is because of Tim Walz's LGBTQ stance. Do you know what Tim Walz has done on the LGBTQ front? Let me tell you what's going to happen. Okay, here's what's going to happen. A little girl sitting in Wisconsin who's maybe on the spectrum, maybe has acne, maybe is a little heavy set, maybe feels upset because the parents are getting divorced, something like that, is going to find herself down a rabbit hole on Reddit. And her parents aren't going to know because they're getting a divorce and they're not focused on her right now. And she's going to spend hour after hour on that thing, and Reddit's going to tell her she's actually a boy. And she's going to get sucked into this gender cult. And she's going to say, Mom and Dad, I want puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, which will sterilize her and deprive her of all sexual pleasure for the rest of her life. And they're going to say, no, you're a girl. And she's going to say, but I want top surgery, this benign thing, this double mastectomy where I'll have tubes coming out of me and I'll never breastfeed a child. I want that too, because I'm a boy. And they're going to say no. And she's going to go to a judge in Minnesota. And because of Tim Walz, the court will take custody of her, use the Medicaid funds in Minnesota to provide her all of those things, chop off her breasts, sterilize her with the puberty blockers and the cross-sex hormones. And when this girl inevitably comes to the conclusion that she didn't want any of this, that it only added to her problems, which were the divorce and the acne and the puberty and not any trans issue, who is she going to go to then? This is all because of Tim Walz. That's what Minnesota is doing right now to little girls and boys, taking custody away from the parents so that they can have these procedures without any loving parent there to help. And that's what Taylor Swift just endorsed for your children. So screw you, Taylor Swift.
That is, first of all, thank you for saying that. And pardon my ignorance. This is one of those topics that's so upsetting to me. I have too many children, I think. They can take custody?
Yeah. There's a law that Tim Walz signed that says the court can take jurisdiction, which in this instance means custody, over minor children who are not getting the gender affirming care, which is a lie. There's only two sexes. Gender's bullshit. There's men and there's women. One cannot become the other. And he signed a law saying that they can take jurisdiction over minor children who are not being affirmed by their children and get all of those procedures done outside of any connection. Your parents will have nothing to do with it. They won't have access to you.
That's so dark.
Yeah.
I have to say, I look at, you were describing how rich Taylor Swift is. Why isn't she happy?
Good question. I mean, listen, what is she, like 32? I don't know what she is. She's young. She's never had a relationship that works. She makes a lot of money off of writing about it. That could be part of the problem. Like, for the reasons you were just discussing. When you find true love, when you have somebody who loves you unconditionally, warts and all, that's everything. And she hasn't been able to find it. She's made a lot of money off of it. And I think she travels from city to city without the grounding that you have, that I have, that hopefully all of you have. And maybe she's feeling untethered. Maybe she's feeling empty and lost. And maybe she wants other people to make similar decisions in life as she has. Because people feel validated when you do that. And I think that's why she's misleading these kids. She doesn't have the core that you should have before you ever advise somebody on electoral politics.
I totally agree.
Right?
I completely agree.
So it's a very dark day, and I feel like she betrayed all of the moms and dads who took their little girls there and fostered a relationship of fandom, not knowing that she would then turn around and try to trans your kid or bless the man who's doing it, whether he's the Minnesota governor or, God forbid, the vice president.
And thankfully, because my kids are my kids, they are very interested in politics. They watch the debates with me. They are very in the know about the differences as it relates to Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Tim Walz, J.D. Vance, U.S. politics, and economic policies. Because I don't want my kids to live in a bubble and not know what the real world is actually about, but I do it in an age-appropriate way, and I try to protect them from the harsh reality that we're experiencing right now and the New World Order, which is starting to be implemented and terrifyingly possibly about to be elected. But I don't want to go off on a tangent here. I want to stick to the script, which, by the way, there is none. This is all unscripted and uncensored. But Tim Walz has established his policy in Minnesota. And in Minnesota, if you are a pre-adolescent or a confused boy or girl, or an emotionally disturbed youth, which, by the way, every single kid is, because every single kid goes through puberty and has a massive surge of hormones for the first time ever. And their bodies change, and their minds change, and everything about them is changing. And although I'm old, I'm not that old, I remember what it was like, or at least I think I do, and I remember how challenging those times are. Being a young kid these days is not easy. And it wasn't easy then, and it's not easy now. But in Minnesota, if you happen to be one of these kids who might be a little bit confused, that happen to get sucked down the Reddit hole, or perhaps got sucked in by the powers that be, by the school system and the machine that wants you to think a certain kind of way, and you go to Reddit or you go to TikTok and you get caught in the endless cycle of bullshit, you might think that these feelings, which are 100% normal, are actually something very different. And in Minnesota, if you decide that you think you should be a boy when you were born a girl, or you were born a girl and you really need to be a boy, in Minnesota, they will do gender-affirming care, which will 100% guarantee you are sterilized and not able to be what you were, by God, ever again. And all of that is bad, but it only gets worse because in Minnesota, the state will take custody of your child, and the state will protect them from you without your permission as a parent. They will advocate and ensure that your child who is confused will be allowed access to the intervention, medically, hormonally, or by any means necessary. They will go ahead and take your daughter and chop her boobs off. They will go out there and give her testosterone, which will guarantee that she's never able to have a baby in the future. They'll block her hormones, they'll give her new hormones, and they will medically destroy your child forever. And if you don't like it, tough shit, because the law states they are doing God's work. And thank the sweet Lord that does not exist in my state, because if it did, I wouldn't live here anymore. And if somebody ever tried to deny me access to my parental rights, I'd be in jail for life. And no, I'm not advocating violence. I'm just letting you know what I would do if someone ever effed with my children, and my right to advocate for them as their father. So when dipshit Taylor Swift goes on the record as stating why she wants Kamala and Walz to be in president, I can promise you she will never receive another red cent from me or my family. And as sick as I am by what she did and why she did it, at least I'm happy that I got the wake-up call as quickly as I did to ensure that I always remember to never let anyone, some other person that I don't know, a stranger whose ethics, values, and politics are completely unknown to me, I will never allow them to be put in a position of high regard or influence ever again. And truthfully, in my house, it didn't get that bad because the buck stops here and I'm the one who's in charge. But I don't think it's like that in every other household. And I also don't think most people have a clue what they're agreeing to if they agree to this bullshit Taylor Swift endorsement. Because she's a sicko. And no, I'm not happy about any of the bullshit, one-sided fact-checking that went on during the debate, and I could go on and on about all the different things I'd like to nitpick about that. But I hope America wakes up and recognizes the threat to our families, the threat to our future, the threat to our children. That is coming soon in this next election. But Taylor Swift, this hypocritical asshole that she is, who's sitting on north of $1 billion that was blessed to her by families like mine, should shut her fucking mouth. And I don't care how attractive or talented she is a brain-dead moron pushing this propaganda, which I will not allow my children to be victimized by. And when I told my children what she believes and why, both of my kids, thank God, have enough of a moral backbone and enough self-confidence to promptly declare we hate her too. So F you, Taylor Swift. You'll never betray my trust again.
No, I'm gonna keep it there.
With all respect, please take your signs down.
Well, I work for the
I don't
Harrison
care
Waltz.
who you work for, man. I'm asking you with respect to respect me, and please take the signs off of my property.
Well, I was just about to say I'm gonna bring more signs too. I'm just gonna place it around.
Get the fucking
We support
shit off
Kamala
of my
Harrison
property.
Waltz.
I'm just gonna tear the fucking things up anyway.
But you don't support defunding the police?
No, I don't. Dude, are you trying to piss somebody off? Because that's what you're doing.
Well, the
Want
Waltz.
me to get my fucking gun out? All right? And then you'll see who went about defunding
Well, it's just
the fucking police.